Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Attacking Blues. I'm your host, Jimmy Funnell, and as always, I'm joined by my fellow co-host, Laurenz Vescoli. We've had a bit of a break because the last episode we recorded, we had some technical difficulties, let's say it like that. So we've got a lot to talk about then. Also, still from last week with Grimsby Town, which we will be briefly touching upon, and of course the reasonably good performance against Brighton and Hove Albion. Let's get straight in it. I mean, we'll talk about Grimsby Town again, Laurenz, because we already have done this. But yeah, great academy day. All the right things happened. Okay, we conceded a goal. But, now in retrospect, because last time when we talked about it, it was like, yeah, okay, we didn't get a clean sheet. Now we've got a clean sheet. So that even seems less tragic now. So what were your thoughts on the Grimsby Town game, specifically, of course, regarding a certain Billy Gilmore?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the Grimsby thing, we didn't even touch the Liverpool game because we spoke about that in that other podcast that kind of messed up as well. But on Grimsby, it was just a good day. It was just a feel-good day for Chelsea fans, really. Obviously, hudson-odoi made his full comeback. Reece James made his full debut, such as so did Billy Gilmore, so did Mark Guay. Still not sure how to pronounce his name, actually. Because people say it in a way, and I'm like, I can't say that. So it feels like Guay. And we had obviously Angerin, however you pronounce his name, come on. We had Ian Martin come on and actually do really well. And yeah, it was just a good day. Am I forgetting a youngster? I guess Pulisic in that sense, but to be honest, he was the least impressive of the lot.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, I guess Gray didn't really have much to do, so I can't really say he was particularly impressive. But that's not down to him or not as to his fault. But yeah, I was happy. I mean, pretty much everyone performed well. Billy Gilmore dominated midfield, played very much like a mix of a Cesc Fabregas and a Jorginho. Obviously,
yeah.
Toned down to being 18, but still the way he played and the way he dictated things. Reece James, defensively, of course, not exactly needed or tested, but you could see the technical ability that he has, whether that's, just with the ball for crossing or for dribbling, because, he assisted, well, I guess two, but officially one goal, scored one himself with a lovely curler from outside the box. So that was great. Hudson-odoi, in the end, also getting on the score sheet after he missed about 3 1-on-1s with the keeper before. But yeah, it was just a feel-good day overall, and I think we were all very pleased. The only question that I posed, would any of them start against Brighton? I never thought that they would. I thought maybe Southampton as the next Premier League game might be one where at least Reece James or possibly also Hudson-odoi start. Don't think Lewis the right moment to start as well, especially with having lost the first Champions League game. But yeah, like really nothing to complain about the Grimsby Town. And like you said, at the time wasn't too happy to concede the goal, but now we are actually not that fast about conceding that one goal anymore. Especially because it was a great goal. They were happy, and I wanna just mention this quickly because we've played so many lower league sides over the years in cup competitions that were just absolutely dirty, tried to literally break our legs with every challenge. And Grimsby weren't like that at all. That they fought their way. They still gave us pretty difficult game in the first half until we got that penalty to make it 3-1 just before the break. But they didn't lunge into these crazy challenges, didn't almost injure everybody. They were just happy when they scored, brought loads of fans to the ground, and fair play.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that is something which one should definitely mention, because that isn't something which happens, in any case. I think what we should also mention is the penalty takers, because in that game we had Pedro. In Brighton, comparatively, we had Jorginho. Lampard's finally made the right choice, if you ask me. I mean, whatever really went down and all this penalty matter, it doesn't really matter because we've come to the right ending.
Well,
Jorginho should be our penalty taker. Sorry.
If we stick with this now, yes, but who knows at this point whether we're going to change it again? Because I haven't actually watched the press conference after Brighton yet, still, but I saw these quotes of him saying, "Well, Jorginho is our penalty taker now, and he's one of the leaders as well." I'm like, you're just making a fool of yourself now, Lampard. You can't change, decide and if you explain that you're not sure and you want to try it a few people, no one would have a problem with that. But if you keep saying he's a penalty taker and he's a penalty taker and he's a penalty taker, you just make yourself look like a mug.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned in that last video that we unfortunately didn't publish, I honestly think that Barkley really was to be the intended one, but he had his rethink. And, of course, him missing that penalty, crumbling under the pressure, will have played its part in that. Lampard's still making mistakes, but he's learning from them fairly quickly. So I could imagine, he just thought, okay, this was the wrong decision. The backlash publicly, of course, because of him Barkley missing that penalty. Barkley might be a good penalty taker. I'm not going to object to that. But, you just saw there, okay, he can crumble under pressure. Now, Jorginho, he's not that kind of guy. He will not crumble under pressure. Yes, his way of taking a penalty can go wrong, but every penalty he's taken for us, it's been good. And okay for Napoli.
The League Cup final, he missed against City.
Oh, he did, didn't he? That's true. In the penalty shootout, I was talking about just general penalties.
Yeah.
You're right. In the penalty shootout, he did miss, but. That was the same with Eden Hazard, to be fair. It's just the way they take penalties, that waiting until the last second to look where the keeper goes, and that can go wrong. But we've been benefiting from it greatly. And this, how did Terry mention it? B-Tech Lampard basically just put really a lot of power into the penalties, what Barkley does. Yeah, that doesn't really work always, and especially when you're under pressure. So I'm glad that worked out. I think one major point before we move completely into the Brighton game is that Christian Pulisic, you mentioned it already, Laurenz. He didn't play well. We talked with Shoyan the other week about him. He didn't feature against Brighton. I mean, in the end, Lampard made the right choices because we won 2-0 against Brighton. But I mentioned this on Twitter. I don't quite understand why you don't give Pulisic just those minutes so that he can learn from his mistakes. He'll make mistakes. He's not doing too well at the moment. I understand that. But at least he can learn from them because he's got that age. He's only 20 years old, or is he 21 already?
Just turned 21 last week.
Just turned 21, right, yeah. And Pedro, for all he's done, and I love him as a person, I really do. Don't get this twisted, because I really, really like Pedro, but he's been in a pretty steep decline for a while now, and he has failed to acclimatize or adjust his way of play to how he plays now, because he's not as fast anymore. He's not as decisive. He just holds on to the ball too long, which I think we should also still talk about with Ross Barkley when we talk. But that's something where I don't get why Lampard just doesn't make him make his mistakes, get out of his system, learn from them, and give him just a run of games so that he can, get some groove together. It's a bit baffling for me. What do you think about that with him favouring? Well, Willian I can understand because he's in good form, but specifically Pedro.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was just going to say that if Pedro was playing at least like Willian was, who is in decent form, he's not setting the world alight, but he's in decent enough form, working hard, and scored on the weekend as well, even if it took a slight deflection, but still was a crucial goal to make it 2-0.
Yeah.
And if Pedro was doing that, fair enough, but he isn't. And then even then, in some, because like everywhere else, in pretty much every other position, we're just favouring these young players now, even if they're not like significantly outperforming the other players, we're still favouring these young players just because, we want to give them the chance. But Pulisic is the one that doesn't get a chance. So I can even understand where some of these, I guess, call them Lampard haters come from when they say this, this English, what's the word? Just
bias.
Yeah, bias, I guess. I can get it. At the same time, though, when I listen to the comments by Lampard after the Grimsby game, and basically he just said, in other words, Pulisic didn't listen to my instructions, then I'm like, well, no, shocker, you're not playing then. At the same time, though, okay, Pedro might have listened to the instructions, but he was too shit to do anything with it. So at the same time, what's better? Because if people didn't know or don't know, after the Grimsby game, basically Lampard said that both wingers were told to get in behind, try to get into the box and score from there, just to penetrate the back line. And that wasn't happening at all in the first half against Grimsby. And then he said it was heavily reiterated basically at half time. And then if you watch that, even though Lampard didn't say that specifically, if you watched that game in the second half, you saw that hudson-odoi was doing it, and Pulisic, okay, a bit more than in the first half, but wasn't doing it anywhere near as much as hudson-odoi was, that getting in behind. So even then, even after it had been reiterated again, he wasn't doing it as much as the other one. And okay, fair enough, maybe Lampard said one do it more than the other, but the way Lampard explained it, which is the only information that we have, he basically didn't follow instructions. So I'm like, well, no shocker then. I mean, yeah, okay, Pulisic's interview was a bit strange when he said, well, basically the manager didn't give me a reason why I'm not playing. He just told me work hard and stuff, and you'll get your chances. But it's not the manager, people, in my opinion, sometimes expect more from managers than they, in my opinion, should give. A manager shouldn't run around to a squad of 25 players and talk to them for about half an hour every day. There's not enough minutes in the day to do that. You can't possibly, you can't tell everyone individual instructions. I know he's only 21, but he's still a professional footballer. There still has to be some self-responsibility and just try and get your way, into a team, in your own way. And if you don't know that own way, that's an issue in itself anyway. If you can't train hard enough, if you can't follow instructions, well enough to get yourself into a team, if you clearly have the ability, because the ability, I don't think we can doubt Pulisic does have.
But that's never been this is what makes me a bit curious about this, because it's never been a problem. If you look at his Dortmund time, he was, someone who struggled with consistency, blah, 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 but work ethic and following instructions were never things that were criticized about him. So I'm not quite sure where this is coming from, to be honest. I mean, Lampard's the manager. If he tells you to do something, then you do it. And he just doesn't seem like the kind of person who would say no to that or would intentionally not do it.
I don't think it was a bad or intentional. Sorry to interrupt. I don't think it was an intentional decision to I'm not going to get him behind. But as in maybe the way he felt the game and saw the game, that wasn't the thing that felt natural to him. So he would have kind of had to force himself in a way. Some defenders, you see it at Arsenal sometimes, you see it at United, trying to play out from the back. Some defenders are just not made for that. But when the manager tells them to, they try. Then, okay, sometimes it doesn't work and stuff. Sometimes they still just punt it long and the manager is furious on the sideline. And that's a bit like how it feels when he doesn't get in behind. I don't know, maybe he still doesn't trust his teammates to actually get the ball to him. So he's like, well, I can make that run. I'm just tiring myself out and I'm not going to receive the ball anyway. But it's a team sport. If you make that run, you pull apart the defense. So even if you don't receive the ball to you, it still opens up spaces and gaps for other players. So
of course,
it's tricky. I mean, we're still in September, barely, but we're still in September. So let's see how things evolve. I mean, I get what Lampard says with the new league and new way of living and everything else. I understand it. But I just if Sarri said something like that, I would get it. But because Lampard is playing all the other 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, I'm like, well, because you play all the others, that whole justification of getting used to things, Reece James has never played in the Premier League. Okay, he still hasn't so far, but still, he will. Tomori didn't. So many of these players didn't, and then there's no acclimatizing to the situation. So it's I'm not sure I can give that excuse, but like I say, we just have to wait and see if by November, December time he still hasn't featured more and still hasn't played more, because people are harsh on him. When he does play against Grimsby, including myself, I'm like, well, you didn't expect to play well. But then if you compare the front three, okay, hudson-odoi obviously, but even he took a while to get into the game. In the first half, I thought Pulisic was better than hudson-odoi. But compared to Willian and Pedro, they're playing all these games. Okay, Pedro had a minor injury with the hamstring problem, but still they're playing all the time. But Pulisic isn't. So obviously, like, now you have to adapt and now you have to get used to things, to a new league and everything. But then you're not playing. Well, that will make that even more difficult when you finally get a chance again.
Yeah, and that's the point that many people are making, that, you know, he needs to have that chance, a bit of a run of games, because we've got the time to do that, basically. I know people don't like hearing this, but we've got the time. You know, this is a year of transition this year. You know, well, Chelsea, we don't do transition often, or we shouldn't at least, but this year certainly is, because we're in a completely new situation, sorry. Transfer ban is something which in today's time is a huge thing. You know, it has a huge impact on a club, and to a certain degree we are feeling it because we needed reinforcements in certain areas, but you know, it's working out quite well, reasonably well. But you know, it's nevertheless the case that you would expect these opportunities to be the same for each and every person. If he really is having trouble implementing what Lampard is saying, then I can also understand why he isn't getting the minutes. But at least give him a substitute appearance so that he can try and rectify what he's done wrong, you know. But if he doesn't even get the chance to work on what Lampard's been telling him, I don't see how he can then, you know, make amends, and that is something which is worrying. But I think, as we've spoken about Pulisic really last week, and now also for quite a while, I think we should move on to the next guy who's been causing a few worries, and that's Ross Barkley. Because if we get into the Brighton game, just a few words from me there. I thought that we played pretty well for most of the game. There were like about 10 to 15 minutes in the first half, which we leaned back a bit because we had a great start to the game, and then
Similar in the second half, really.
Yeah, and it was, yeah, but not as bad, I'd say, because once we'd scored, then Brighton were.
Yeah, but they hit the bar after we scored. So.
They hit the bar, but that's bloody zonal marking, if you ask me, because once again, they were marking zonal, and then they just lost. Who was it?
Chris Byrne.
No, it wasn't Chris Byrne. Something with W. Byrne. You sure?
Yeah, Webster gave the penalty away, if you mean it.
Oh,
Pretty
whatever.
Sure doesn't matter.
They hit
the header after a corner.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, once again, and you know, I'm not gonna give Alonso too much grief, because he was not good necessarily, but he wasn't bad. He was okay, actually. He had some good moments, even though he got burnt on some occasions. But that's just Marcos Alonso. Yeah. People are saying, you know, he is our best defender, left back. Don't know what they've been smoking. This atrocious opinion, but okay, you know, he isn't a bad defender on his day, and he's certainly a good win back. But you know, he still has his lapses, and he showed that there as well. But you know, he was one of them who lost the Brighton play on the goal, and as I said, that's down to zonal marking more than it's down to the players, because they're just not used to it as such. I mean,
focused on zonal marking. Like even Conte did zonal marking though. We never really had. I mean, okay, Conte did a bit of a mix, but Sarri most certainly didn't do man marking. Okay, it was already an issue last year, fair enough. So the set piece defending was an issue last year as it is now.
Yeah, because I mean, what makes this really sad is that Chelsea used to be a huge force to be reckoned with when it came to set pieces. Not only in regard to scoring goals, but also if we conceded a corner,
we would never
concede a goal that easily. And that is something which is what became part of the Chelsea DNA. But, you know, it's unfortunate the way it is now at the moment. But what we can say is that zonal marking is for shit. And I agree. What Conte did, I didn't agree with a lot Conte did, but that was one thing I really liked about him, that he just mixed it up.
Yeah, but
yeah.
it was completely different though, because three centre backs. Okay, one of them was Aspi, so it's not that different. But you had Aspi in there, you had Alonso as a wing back, you had Moses in there, who's okay, not the tallest guy, but he's not short. Then you had Matic for a good while of it while Conte was here when we won the league. So that's another huge player to defend set pieces. Because if you're that tall like a Matic is, you can be slightly out of position for zonal marking. But because you're so tall, you still get the ball away.
Yeah, but Matic was always the kind of guy that, he had height, but he was never able to really use it. I've never seen such an idiotic display with someone who's that tall and just wasn't able to make use of it in the middle of the pitch. But, that's a different story. Point is, I understand where Lampard's coming from with the height issue, that we need zonal marking because of that. But if it's not working, it doesn't work. Then try, at least try a mix like Conte did. But I hope he'll figure something out in the course of the season. But let's get to Ross Barkley, because that is the main point of talking, if you ask me. Because if we're talking about Lampard's way of playing, I thought in the spells that we were really, really good, wasteful, not clinical enough, but, really, really good and easy on the eye. It was so good from all of the team, even the people where you say we wouldn't necessarily expect it because of certain issues like Willian or Pedro or even Alonso, but they were able to keep up. But Ross Barkley just seemed so out of touch with what was going on there. I mean, he was always far too late onto the ball. Oh, well, not far too late onto the ball, but he just held onto the ball far too long. And he needed that extra touch, which the commentators actually also noticed.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't work that way. If we'd had Kovacic in there from the start and we really noticed the difference once he came on, then I actually would argue that we would have scored a goal early on already.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's bad when even the English pundits or commentators, I guess, that don't make it in English TV but go to America instead, and even they notice. Like, that then it's a bit serious, because the guy took about 1,500 touches every single time Barkley did, while everyone else played two-touch football. I mean, It was infuriating. And then half the time he played the wrong ball anyway, and then he had the huge sitter where for that unbelievable Alonso cross. Okay, Alonso 5 minutes before put a cross out for a throw-in on the other side. But that cross by Alonso was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, fair play. Okay, I get it was a difficult chance to take because it came at knee height, I guess. And he was kind of just overpacing himself and had to slow down quickly. And then it hit him on the ankle rather than on the foot when he tried to go for the finish. But, I mean, if there is one thing that you could argue Barkley should play over Kovacic for, it's scoring goals. And then he's 6 yards in front of goal, 7 yards in front of goal by himself, with on the end of a great cross. And even then he doesn't score. So then I'm like, even more so, why on earth is he playing? And, that almost infuriates, I say almost, that infuriates me way more than why Pulisic didn't play. Why on earth didn't Kovacic play? It makes no sense. Okay, we have Lille on Wednesday, but Saturday 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. to Wednesday evening is long enough. Lille isn't a far trip. So that can't really be a reason for Kovacic not to have played. He doesn't seem to have been injured, so I do not comprehend it. Honestly can't understand it. But yeah, in general for the game, I agree. We had we had a poor period in the first half, poor period in the second half, but had some good periods as well. I'm not sure I agree we were that good in any moments, as you said it earlier. We were good, but
I thought we were.
Yeah, no, I agree that we were good, but we weren't incredible, I thought. Because through midfield, yes. But as in the end chances, there was very few. I'm like, well, that is a guaranteed goal. And then obviously, the Tammy chance and then obviously the Tammy chance basically to make it 3-0 after we had already made it 2-0 when he went for the chip and the keeper just kept upright. But other than that, I didn't think many of our chances were he's like as we say it in German, these are 100%ers, basically. That doesn't mean we didn't play well, and that doesn't mean we didn't have a chances to take a few, because really in the first half we could have been up by 2, 3, if not 4. If we just either had a better final pass or just had a better finish or a better decision or, well, yeah, like I say, one of those things really. But yeah, overall, you can't be too displeased with it. And I'm not sure, don't really have anything else more to say on Barkley. So I just pick out a couple of players that I thought were really good because we can't talk about everyone, obviously. And I think Jorginho, I mean, that was a game where he got the plaudits he deserved, in my opinion, which he does pretty much every game. But sometimes other players play even better or more stand out, and then no one talks about Jorginho. But that was a standout game. Of course, the penalty, and it was an important penalty to score that, because if he doesn't score that, that changes everything, because it lifts their mood, drops our mood, or like just momentum, I guess. So it was a big penalty, took it expertly, and there's no discussion as to whether he should be the penalty taker, in my opinion. But generally, he just played incredibly well. Great movement, great piece of passing, just dictated everything. Loads of interceptions as well. Good at tackling, which he isn't always, but decent tackles in there as well throughout the game. One mistake, like that I can remember, one single mistake when he just took a tiny bit too long to pass the ball as he was looking for options. Again, lack of movement by other players, more so the issue than him actually just being too slow. But I guess him not quickly enough deciding to, okay, there's no forward passing option, so let me just go backwards to be safe. Lost the ball, but then the guy just pulled out a dive instead of actually just going past Aspie when he could have done when Aspie didn't even touch him. But that was literally the only mistake Jorginho made all game. Great passing. I said a minute ago, no clear-cut chances. Completely forgot about Pedro being through and goal 1v1. So there was clear-cut chances, and that was an unbelievable over-the-top ball by Jorginho, which is and that's the kind of thing why Jorginho doesn't have about 12 or 15 assists already for Chelsea, because we don't take chances like that, which is infuriating. But he was great, as was Tomori, and as was Christensen. We're very, very happy with those two. Very happy with those.
I actually wanted to mention that. Thanks for reminding me. That Christensen-Tomori partnership, I really like it. They've got speed, strength. I mean, there were two definitely one, but I think there were two instances where Tomori made a mistake, a bad mistake, which could prove costly normally, but he's just got the speed to make up for it. And as long as he has that, he'll learn from those situations and nothing bad happens. So that's great. And I generally think that they've got a good chemistry going. And they are my definite starting partnership until Rudiger comes back, because then one could make an argument for Rudiger or Christensen. But, for now, that's great that's clicking, and they had a great performance. Granted, Brighton didn't really produce a lot. Morpay, I think, is the guy up front for them. He had barely any service at all. I mean, they were in disarray. Pascal Gross tried, but they didn't really do too well. But nevertheless, they really, really did have a great game. What I also want to mention is with Jorginho, I absolutely adore him. I don't know how people can still slander him. He is absolute proper Chelsea. I mean, the guy, the motions, he's really, really fighting for the badge. He's playing for the badge, and he is giving it his all. And I think you raised your eyebrows when I said this when we were on the Chelsea Echo podcast. But for me, he's captain's material. I don't know who in this team you'd otherwise give the armband when Azpilicueta inevitably will be displaced by Reece James. Either soon. Either soon or in the course of the season. Yeah, and I just think he already gives all the directions. You see him motivating everyone. That is what a captain should do. If he were to become our captain, I'd be absolutely ecstatic about it. And, I'd like to just compare this to Jordan Henderson. I know Jordan Henderson is a far worse player than Jorginho, but he has the same kind of fire where he gives directions and motivates his team, which just makes him very important for Liverpool. And that's why he's their captain, because he really barks those orders. He really galvanizes the team. And Jorginho does the same. He's been doing it ever since Sarri came. I mean, on his first game, even in pre-season, he barely knew the team. He was already barking orders. That is what you do. And this kind of a vocal captain, which we just have been missing with Cesar Azpilicueta. He's got great qualities. I absolutely adore Dave. He's been brilliant. Also as a vice captain, to further motivate. But in the pressing situations, as we had with Kepa or what was the penalty issue the other week with Barkley?
Yeah.
He was just nowhere to be found, and that's not what you do. John Terry would have ripped heads off. To be fair, maybe he did behind the scenes, but we never got any info on that, so I'd expect it didn't happen. Jorginho would, and that's why I think he was absolutely brilliant.
You say he would, he didn't for the penalty situation.
Jorginho.
Yeah, he didn't rip any heads off.
Well, he's not the captain, is he?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter though. Like that's my stance on it.
Yeah, but there's a structure. There's a structure. There are certain instances during a game where he can, impose himself. But those are issues that the captain is supposed to resolve, and he's not the captain. So I can fully understand why he didn't get involved there. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and I get the structure thing. But unless there's like a conflict, like an ego fight going on between Aspi and Jorginho as to who's the leader, I don't think that's really an issue. Like, I don't think Aspi would be like, fuck off, Jorginho, you're not allowed to talk like that. I don't think that would be an issue. And I made a similar point, I think, when we spoke about it on the Echo podcast. If John Terry was on the pitch and he didn't have the captain's armband, he'd still be the captain. Doesn't matter whether he wears the armband or not on the pitch. He would still do exactly what he did, what he would do if he wore the armband. It wouldn't make it much of a difference for him. But yeah, I agree. Once Aspi is displaced, I don't really see anyone else that is a good fit to be the captain, bar Jorginho. Yeah, of course, you could argue maybe we should just give it to one of the young English players, like we did with John Terry back then. Should it be someone like Tomori even? I don't know. Should it be Rudiger? But then I don't know. But a bit like that John Terry idea when he was, 21 or something when he got the captain's armband?
Yeah,
or was he
like
24 by then? I don't remember. But there is obviously an argument to be made to do something similar, just to give the captain's armband to one of the youngsters, and that will make them a leader just by that. While Jorginho already is but is not from here. Who knows how long he's going to be here? He's already much older, so we could have a bit more of a John Terry situation.
Much older, but yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, what is he? 28?
No. I think he's 26 or 27. He's not that old. I think he's 27.
I know he's not that old, but we could have a similar situation of like a John Terry where someone's just kept him for 10, 15 years, which ideally is good because we don't have to have this silly conversation every couple of years who's the captain, like we have for the last few years.
Who would be your pick? Because for me, from the crop that we currently have, Callum Hudson-Odoi isn't captain's material, if you ask me. Tammy Abraham,
Strikers aren't captains.
Yeah, and Reece James is just too quiet. He's a beast on the field, don't get me wrong, but I can remember when he spoke to Alex Goldberg on his podcast. He described him as this quiet type. He doesn't impose himself. He does impose himself physically, but not verbally. So I think the only viable option and the best option, one way or another, even if one of the others were a good candidate, is Mason Mount. Mason Mount embodies Chelsea. He's got Chelsea in his DNA. The guy is vocal. He imposes himself on games. He just has this good vibe around him where you can also see the guy takes things seriously. He's playing for the badge, and I'd be fine with him. For example, I don't think he'd immediately become vice captain because we still got Azpilicueta around. But my point is, Frank Lampard was, for example, vice captain. And for me, Mason Mount is certainly on his way to become something similar to Lampard. I know it's still so long to go, and he's very young, and it's big boots to be filled. But still, I think Mason Mount would also be good captain's material.
Yeah, I agree. On Reece James, I think on the pitch he can be vocal enough, but off the field he wouldn't be vocal enough, which a captain needs to be, whether that's in the dressing room or not. I need to see a little bit more of Tomori, to be honest, because maybe he's a shout. Yeah. Because Mount, it would be ideal if Mount's voice would at some point crack, because then he would be a bit more like imposing on other people to be a captain. Because at the moment he's like this little bird twitching in the air, and I'm like, shut up. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I imagine when Mount shouts at me. I'm like just laughing at him. But with what he does, with his character, and with how he acts on the field, and even like in interviews and everything else, I completely agree. But again, just would like to see a bit more of tomorrow. But it's not like a tomorrow decision anyway. It will be interesting to see what Lamps does once Aspie is not in the team. But then again, would he just give it to Willian? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. Not because Willian is proper captain, but Aspie's still the proper captain until he leaves. And then on the field, Lamps isn't really too fast, and then just gives it to the longest serving. So yeah, I guess that is that. But other than that, I don't really think there's that much more to cover. Of course, the Liverpool game was a little bit disappointing. We could have gotten something out of it. We could have even gotten 3 points out of it. That didn't happen. Grimsby was great. We finally got our first clean sheet, first Premier League home win under Frank Lampard against Brighton as well. Exactly, which I think we're all very pleased about. I mean, by tonight we will be 7th because, well, one of United and Arsenal will win, and if they draw, Arsenal will go above us. So, we will be 7th, but it's not awful. We're not incredibly far off by Liverpool, of course, and City. So it's okay. We're going to the Champions League again, of course, against Lille in an away game, which is a must-win game if qualification still is to be on the cards. Because if we can't beat Lille, the pot 4 seed, then we have bigger issues to think about. But yeah, so we need to beat them, and then of course it's Southampton on the weekend, which should be interesting and good as well. And let's hope for more good things. And other than that, don't really have much more to say. Jimmy, yourself?
No, I just give a prediction for the Lille game. I think we're going to win 2-0. I think we're on the clean sheet roll now.
The clean sheet roll. It will generally be interesting who plays and if there's any rotation, because there wasn't much against Valencia, which I didn't see coming. So might be the same again. Hopefully it's not Barkley again. So yeah, 2-0. Wouldn't be surprised. I'll go 3-1 just because I think the clean sheet was more to do with Brighton than us. But yeah, I'll go for that. Do we just give a quick prediction for Southampton as well? Because you probably won't.
Sure. Yeah, okay. I think that's going to be a close call. I think it's going to be either a draw, unfortunately, because the Ralph Aleutian is good. They are playing well, or a very narrow win for Chelsea. Let's say 2-1.
Yeah, I'll agree with a 2-1 win. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. But yeah, guys, I think we're going to leave it here. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. It's massively appreciated. If you are watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe down below. Drop a like on the video. If you're listening to this on the iTunes, on iTunes, give us a good rating there and follow us. On Spotify, the same. We still haven't figured out whether you can actually properly follow. You can follow someone, but then is it like a YouTube subscription? I don't think so. I don't know. But if you're watching on Spotify, just do all the good things you can do in there, because up to Spotify, really. But yeah, really do appreciate you guys listening. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea. Keep the blue flag flying high. And we'll see you next time.